And we are recording.
Live from Times Square. Yeah, hey guys, or hey everyone. So we don't have a lot of discussion topics, which maybe is good. But the first one is about the PostgreSQL maintenance proposal here. Oops. Realize you all have the link to the doc.
So I think that one's from Carlos, who's on call.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Carlos. I am collaborating some months ago, but it's my first time in the meeting, but I will be attending more times in the future. Well, about thank you. About the issue, I am Adnan teammate from Vietnam, and doing some research in the stable chart. We found that the Postgres one was like a bit unmaintained. We found that the version is not up to date, and well, we found some different feature that we can. I mean, the dynamic chart has included, and this one no. I was investigating the current maintenance, but I can't find what are the maintenance. So I was talking with Anna if we can adopt it and include it in our pipeline in order to automate the release process as we do with the other chart. So I create the issue with the different information that I found. So it is.
That's a good question. What is our policy? I don't know for adopting maintenance of a chart. I know this one doesn't have an owner's file at all, but it does have people that contributed it. What has the process been so far?
I was curious about that too, and the interesting thing about this one is that in the chart YAML there's no maintainers,
Yeah.
which I think means whoever was maintaining it before no longer wants to maintain it, or
Well, let's just figure out what to do now.
Well, basically, the guy who was maintaining it didn't have time to continue to maintain, so removed it himself from the owners.
Yeah, just looking at it.
It's this PR here. I was just going to get blame on this one. Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds like it's up for grabs then. Yeah.
Do people who maintain charts get notified anyway of changes going into their charts, or is there a way that we try to do that in general?
If you have an owner's file, you will get called in for review on them as long as you're listed as a reviewer in an owner's file. So this only works for charts that do that. Outside of that, there is no system for it, which has long been a problem. If you want to write one.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering. Like, I tried, or at least I tried in the past to look at the owner's file and or listed maintainers in the YAML and ping them. That ends up making the cycle even longer than it already is. So I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, I remember before we had owners files, we used to ping them.
Yeah. I think with this one, since it's not listed as deprecated, I think we can just say it's up for adoption. If somebody wants it, PR, Owners file, maintainers, have at it.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Okay, sounds good.
Lazy consensus on ownership.
I already have the pull request prepared in case that we need to implement some features that the current one have and the dynamic one no. So we can work on include this kind of feature if needed.
So, what's the upgrade path for this with the changes that this PR has? Is it possible to upgrade from the previous version to this version?
Yes, I think that we should increase the version, but I don't know if the chart version should be upgraded from the existing version to a new major or what?
So that would be, I guess that would depend on whether the change is a breaking one or not.
No.
Do we know if it is?
I added some features, and I think so because we are using a lot of new values in the new properties in the values. We are adding another value, production values slash production, and we also change the template. So I think that the changes will be broken changes. I mean, I need to because I focus to create the issue and collect the information about the comparison between the current chart and the dynamic proposal. But in case that this maintenance proposal was accepted, I need to work to focus my work on the pull request and add the existing feature. Also include some dynamic feature and after that create the pull request is created, but it is on hold. It is with a big warning that not much it because it is only to compare the 16 and the new version, but I need to work on it before request a review and so on.
Okay, so it's work in progress.
Yeah.
Also, I'm seeing that this is changing things from a deployment to stateful set and everything. So this is actually quite a big change. So this would definitely have to be a major bump.
I believe it is, right, in the PR?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's 1.0, yeah. Previous version was 0.18.
But I feel like I'm kind of a little bit of a broken record with this one, but I'm going to paste in that one meta issue about handling breaking changes, which I just reopened again. I'm thinking that based on what Adnan was just suggesting, tell me what you think about this, Adnan, but it seems like there should be some section in the README to help people understand how to do that major upgrade if manual steps are required.
Yeah.
I can write that in the PR. That's all. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, was the Postgres chart already updated for this or not? Or maybe it wasn't.
Maybe I think the good thing here though that's being asked for is what are the steps to go through an upgrade? Right? Just document if somebody's going from the old version to the new version, what does an upgrade mean and how do they do it? Is it automatic? Do you have to take a couple of steps? What do you need to do? Just document that.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree that when we have the new chart ready, we should test and document how to migrate or upgrade from the previous one to the new one.
Sounds good.
Okay. And then did your question about taking over maintainership ever get answered? Do you want to just add a new PR that adds yourself to the maintainers list and owners file? Is that what we were all saying? I think it was.
Yeah, I think. So this PR adds the changes to maintainers already,
Oh, my mistake. Sorry
but it
about
doesn't
that.
add an owners file, which we should also add.
Yes, but only in the chart YAML, not in the owner file.
Yeah, do you want to add an owners file to it, Carlos?
I think I don't think so. I should add this. I should add some of us to the I mean, Adnan or Samir to the owner files. I think that this is the approach that we are using for the other charts. A local owner file for this chart.
Yeah, an owner's file would let you be notified when a pull request comes into the chart, and it would let you be able to merge things without having to wait on us when other people submit things. So along with adding yourself as a maintainer, going the owner's file route gives you a little bit more access and notification.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I added a comment there too in the PR.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Well, I guess there is a second. Is that all for that topic, for the PostgreSQL maintenance proposal and related issues, Carlos?
Oh, for me it's okay. I will continue working on the pull request and including the changes that the previous Postgres support, and I will continue working on the pull request to have it merged with when you accept it, and I continue improving it.
Cool. Thanks. I think I am going to guess that maybe this was your next item, Matt. But the voting item.
Yes, it was. Actually, the next two are mine. Everything from here is me. So this doesn't apply to everybody here, but if you are one of the project maintainers on Helm somewhere, you should have gotten an email about voting. There's an open vote right now, which has to be open till we get 2/3 of the project maintainers to have voted, and a minimum of 3 days, business days. So if you have not voted, check your email. You should have gotten something from the CIVS system, CIVS. It's Condorcet Internet Voting System. I probably butchered the first word, but it's the same system Kubernetes and many other projects used that Cornell University offers as a system for people to use. So you should have an email from there. If you don't, feel free to reach out to me and I will get that fired off to you. Yes, Joe, that's right.
And the way it's set up is very interesting.
Yeah, you do an ordered list, and the ordered list is not going to give exactly what it is for the top ones, because we have to also have a breakdown based on projects you can represent in the very first vote that we have going on here, and that is in the governance doc. So if you go to the Helm governance doc and you go to the initial vote, it'll actually say we're looking at things that Joe has a short discussion topic on the chart testing. Okay, perfect. Josh does. So there's that. If you go to the governance, it'll lay it out. Hopefully later this week, we've had enough people vote and we've had enough days and we can announce everything by the end of the week is the hope. But this is just my reminder. Yep. Thanks, Scott, for sharing that. That's all I had on that one, Scott.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So the next one was the Azure account. But did Josh? You said you also have a short discussion topic. Does it matter?
Yeah.
Azure
No, I can wait.
Okay. I'll throw it on the list then. Do you want to?
Sure.
You have updates for us about Azure?
I've got the account. It's set up. We have some money put in it that it will take us quite a while to eat through because that's how the system works. I've got to go. I was going to go hopefully today and create a cluster in there. I was going to go poke the AKS folks to find the best way to do it. And I've been going through just trying to figure out the logistics of how we're doing it, getting groups and things like that set up. So folks who are charts maintainers here, please send me an email address associated with your Azure account. That's already a valid Azure account to log in. So please send me that. And then I can invite you into the organization and we can get going on this stuff. And I can send some details on how it works. I'm going to write it up here. But yes. Okay. Vic, got yours?
You. Wow, that's awesome.
So we've got it. It works. And perfect. The next thing that I had on this, though, was actually how are we going to store secrets, right? I've been looking at how we store secrets and sent an email out to the list of folks who'd have access to all these secrets. And I realized that there is actually still a threat model here. If somebody gets into one of our machines where there isn't another factor of authentication on this stuff. And I've been looking at ways to say, okay, how are we going to store things, right? What's going to be our backup, our way of sharing credentials? Because now we're going to have a bunch more credentials to a bunch more things as we layer in automation and some of this. What's the way we should go about doing it? There's a few things that I've looked at. And I'd love feedback from folks here. There is bring in a password manager. Okay, there's Vault. So we got to think about our use cases here. First, we have regular credentials that people need to access to get into accounts, like our bot accounts, usernames and passwords, right? Stuff like that. So there's just there's the YouTube Helm account, username and password. How do we store those things, which are typically stored in a password manager? Then we're going to have secret information, such as credentials that get passed off to a Kubernetes cluster or something in there that'll be stored as a secret in there. And where are we going to store those things offline so that people have access to them, right? We also have things like that in our workflows that are going to be partly automated and partly edited. And what are those workflows going to look like? And so obviously there's Vault, there's using a password manager, because Vault works for one side of things, a password manager works for another side of things, right? Then there's things like using Keybase, because we are using Keybase for a bunch of our communication and sharing, and that provides the ability to encrypt and decrypt things around Teams. So you can actually do that. And using Keybase to store these things. And then there was another one, where is it? It's called Blackbox. I don't know if folks have heard of this. I just stumbled across it. Right, and Blackbox works with version control systems, because in Keybase and things like that, you can have a Git repo with these things to encrypt things and then deal with people coming and going and encrypt and decrypt stuff and have it stored in there and edit things and stuff like that. And everything here is done using GPG keys or PGP keys. But it's done around groups of people and groups of things with a management workflow to add people and remove them and then just re-encrypt everything. Like if somebody comes and goes, how do you just deal with the mass? Okay, we're going to take them off and add new people on and re-encrypt stuff. So all of that's in here. And it's cross-platform. So I was poking at this as well. But since we've kind of got those two different workflows and we're trying to share credentials securely, Do folks have any thoughts on this?
So one thing I was oh, sorry. Go ahead, Reinhard.
Just since you mentioned Blackbox, I've never used it, but I used GitCrypt, which is probably similar. But this doesn't solve the problem that you can have the credentials unencrypted on your disk, and if this is what you're after.
You're right. It doesn't solve the problem of having them unencrypted on your disk. It can become
unencrypted. Responsibility, basically.
And I was going to say, I think password managers also have the same problem. If I'm logged into my LastPass and I leave my Chrome window open, anyone can just go into my LastPass and see my passwords.
There's a mild difference here, right? If you go into LastPass or something like that and you get a credential out of it, like to view it or something, you have to enter your password in order to get it back out, right? You don't just get it back out all of the time unless you say, let me do it for, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You have to opt into that. By default, every time you get a password out, you've got to scan your fingerprint or enter a password or something like that.
Yeah, a team can set that on LastPass. A team can set that per team so that you always have that. It's a little annoying, but it's good for security.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the saying that I don't have on my personal account.
Yeah, I thought it was on by default with personal accounts. Every time you get something out, you have to enter your password.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not. Or fortunately, I guess, depending on what your point of view.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that for autofill or for viewing it?
For viewing it.
Both.
Really?
Oh, for both, yeah.
Then I must have enabled it a long time ago to do that. But yeah, that's one of the things that you can do is so that every time you have to enter your credentials, so you can't always get it out. And so a number of password managers will do that. And something like Keybase, just by default, it may be encrypted, stored in their system. But like if you store it in a Keybase volume, somebody just walking over, walking the tree, right, of your file system can say, oh, there's a Keybase directory. I'm going to go into there and start poking around. And then they can have access to that mounted volume and get access to it rather than needing to do it. And here, your stuff is with something like Blackbox. It's always encrypted unless your workflow, you decrypted it for some reason locally. Otherwise, it is stored encrypted unless you just said, hey, I'm editing something or I'm not doing it now. And so these are kind of the different points because it's anytime you interact with it, it has to be unencrypted. But how, right?
I haven't looked at this yet, but the black box thing reminds me of something we used at a previous employer, which was kind of a poor man's version of the same thing. We had basically a file that had all the credentials in it that needed to be kept secret. And it was just encrypted with everybody's GPG keys using Shamir secret sharing so we could have multi-key encryption on it, but anybody could unlock it. But the problem with that was if you ever had a copy of that file and you had ever been able to unlock it, then you could unlock every single password in that file, even after you've been, say, kicked out of the project for being a horrible person. So I tend to shy away from things that are like, yeah, you can just you can just store your encrypted secrets in Git, because I wonder, okay, that's great for now. How do we keep somebody from retroactively getting their hands on a secret that they never had before, but it was sitting there in encrypted form?
So I mean, one of the general rules is if you have access to usernames and passwords, or somebody does and they get kicked out or they leave, always just go reset everything, because they could have just gone in there and copied and pasted everything out of there, right? They could still have backed that up somewhere and taken it somewhere. Just as a general rule, when you have those shared things, if somebody leaves, change every password. Change everything.
True, but there's also the point that with a centralized service, you have some audit capability to say, oh, we know for sure that this person accessed these passwords, so we need to change them first.
Certainly. One of the other problems, though, here, right, is then paying. So if we use something like LastPass Teams for this, then what we have to do is we have to go to the CNCF and get everybody who has access to be on a Teams account in order to do this, and then they have to pay per each person. So I can go chase that down, but it's not like it's a free service.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we would need to chase it down for the number of people involved and look at the cost of it and see what would happen there. And I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
So there's no way to do this with Keybase?
Well, with the Keybase file system, it's the issue isn't that it's stored encrypted. It's that with a Keybase file system, when it's mounted on your system, anybody can access it. It may be encrypted, but access has been opened up to the file system level. So anybody who has access to your file system, right, on your system, can just walk it and get to it and access it.
You're saying it's not granular. It's the only way to make it granular per key would be to have a new repo or something in Keybase per key.
No. It's not that. It's okay. So if I go to LastPass and I want to get a credential out, just like with Teams, you can say, okay, you have to enter your password every time you get the credential out, right?
Right.
It's locked up. When Keybase, once you log into something like that, I can open up any terminal window without entering any password, walk my entire Keybase file system because access has been opened up. It may be stored encrypted, but for ease of use, it's automatically unencrypted for me. So if somebody else were to access my system, they don't have to enter any kind of credentials to get access to all these secrets. They can just walk the file system and find them. And that is the threat model here.
Yeah, and there's no way to lock that down, is there? I'm guessing.
Well, what you can do with Keybase is you can actually say, encrypt it to this team, but then you have the step of having to say, unencrypt this file. It's very similar to something like Blackbox, except the Keybase knows how to manage the team.
So you can access it through the Keybase app, but then not through the file system?
No, you can't access it through. You'd actually be using the Keybase encrypted feature, which is where you have to encrypt and decrypt files manually. And
I
you
see.
just do it around Teams. Yeah, there is no way to say this thing is locked up and only access this. Sounds like a great feature request for it. And somebody built an app on top of Keybase in the Keybase file system called KB Secret. Here, I'll even paste the link in here, which I just looked at because I was poking around, but I don't know how maintained it is or used or any of this stuff that tries to get into some of this.
That looks really cool.
Right. This is in here. I mean, Azure has a service just like most of these folks do for storing secrets as well, and we could look into something like that too for everybody who's got access to the Azure account. But you know, this is kind of the question that I'm looking at here, and I don't know that there's the perfect answer because part of it is giving up some usability and user experience, making user experience easier. Some of it's making it harder, but it's all kind of a spectrum, and I'm just not sure. And I'm happy to do any of them.
Yeah.
When we discussed this before, I remember, I think it was either Dan or someone from the CNCF replied saying that they had set up something like LastPass for other projects.
And then I told them how many people we had, and they went, whoa.
Oh, okay. I see.
Because they got to pay per head, and we've got 20-some people who may need access to one or another one of these credentials.
So whoever solves this problem for the general case for all users is going to be very rich or very famous or possibly both.
Well, if they're rich, they're charging for it, and that's the Keybase and everyone else like that, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to pay for it, you're using something like Blackbox.
So this doesn't sound that expensive, though. Thinking about CNCF, I mean, I'm just saying, thinking about CNCF expenses, it's something like less than $3 a user per month for 20 people. I mean, I guess that does add up.
And they've got a whole bunch of other people on it. Part of it is
Yeah.
also, right,
Yeah.
where does the CNCF put their money? So like Kubernetes money, right? And we saw everyone saw the $9 million funding thing that happened recently with Google giving $9 million to the CNCF. That was actually kind of to fund CNCF taking over the test infrastructure. Kubernetes test infrastructure, which doesn't include most Helm things, is like $3 million a year. Is the cost.
Wow.
And that was kind of just like 3 years of test infra is what they really gave, or 2.5 years, something like that of test infra. That's where that donation is really ending up going.
White elephant gift.
Yeah. Then the CNCF also has things like staff, right? And so there's funding for the staff is where a bunch of the money goes. So if you go look here, you might be amazed at how many people are on staff at the CNCF to support everything that's going on.
Well, this might be slightly off topic, and if it is, just say, hey, we should talk about that another time. But like, is there a possibility for a company or individuals to do like a directed donation to CNCF and say, hey, I'm giving you this money, I want it to be given to the Helm project, or I'm giving you this money, I want it to be given to the Helm project for this?
Let me ask that. That is a wonderful question. And
Yeah.
what I do is I ask people those questions. So I will take an action. All right, I will take an action. I've given myself a to-do here to go ask Dan and Chris that. And if they don't get back to me, one of the things that Chris recently reached out on was to give the Helm project a little bit of one-on-one time every month to just bring up any concerns. The first one of those is going to be this Friday, and we'll see what this even means, and then we'll probably open it up to all the org maintainers once that election's done. And then that's it. If they don't get back to me by then, I will bug them there.
Cool. I added that to the that action item to the doc.
Thank you.
Doc.
So question about this, Matt. Are we looking for a replacement for Keybase entirely, or do we want to use something in addition to what we already have in Keybase? Like, I'm sure there are some secrets that that we care more about than other ones that we want to, like, it's okay having them in Keybase and accessible, but other ones we obviously want to put more security over.
Some of it's kind of the threat model and how it can be accessed. Like if anybody's machine who's logged into Keybase gets taken over, right, then all of those credentials are now wide open. And that's kind of the threat model that I'm looking to get around. And it could be as simple as moving towards something like black box for this, or Keybase encrypting, or something. In fact, while I'm throwing out all these things, there's a lot of options out there that I probably don't even know about. So if y'all have an option.
So the reason I asked that is because if we want to continue using Keybase, then it might make sense to use this KB secret tool as well on top of that for the things that we think are more of a threat model. Yeah.
I'd like to look into this. I'd like to look into that one. That was a really good find too.
Yeah, it looks really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to throw this out there and get the discussion going. I wasn't necessarily looking for an answer today, although we'll probably need to find something by the end of the week. So if anybody's got any ideas, please feel free to bug me or ping me or drive me nuts in a side channel. Then I'll just automatically say for the next thing that I wanted here was there's a PR on the governance stuff there. It's linked in this document. This is all about when we get into the hub, actually adding the guidelines for somebody to be included and have something included. Still looking for feedback on it. And Reinhard, if what I did was okay, let me know. But this is the kind of thing we're looking for final feedback on. I have not heard anything back from the CNCF lawyers, which I will give them one more warning to say, hey, if you don't, we're just going to go as is and we'll revise later. But they do have an open support ticket with them still to get feedback, and I have not gotten anything from them. I'll bug them again today.
Sorry, what was there a PR for that, did you say?
Yeah, it's linked in the meeting here, governance on adding repos, that item there.
Oh, the link that you added to the agenda, thank you.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And thank you all for keeping really good notes while I've been yammering on here. That's all I had.
Awesome, okay. Josh, do you still want to raise your topic?
Yeah, so I just wanted to reference one of the issues in the chart testing repo that I saw from last week. And I was thinking about this weekend, and then when I saw it today, it was as if the issue was kind of decided on in switching from Shell to Go or Python. If you're not familiar with the issue, I'll throw it in here. By the way, this is the correct call for chart testing in general.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that PR, or the issue to re-implement it in Go, and there's discussion between Python or Go. And what I was thinking about this weekend, and I don't want to throw a wrench in this whole process, but I've had success over the last year and a half or so with a framework called Robot. And what Robot is, I can do like just a quick screen share to kind of show you how Robot works. Basically, you run something and it gives you this green or red output here, and then it actually spits out HTML report that has all of your tests, all of your different, test cases, and if there's any output, it'll give you the output here. And then this looks, the way that this looks is it's actually in plain English. So you can say like, I don't know, in the case of chart testing, you could do like Helm chart linted successfully. And the reason I thought of this is because originally the issue was convert to Python. And the way that this works is you actually import Python-based libraries. And then if you look at these libraries, all these are actually doing, and this is in the Chart Museum repo under acceptance tests. I'm just running Helm CLI commands. So basically, it could provide a way for using chart testing to get this HTML report instead of, you know, a long standard out or standard error of this is what's wrong. You can actually get a detailed dive down. So I don't know of anything similar in Go if we're decided on that, but I just wanted to bring that up as maybe a possibility, if not for this tool, for something else. That's all I got.
That looks really, really cool.
Yeah, looks cool.
Looks interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, my original comment was going to be to use Python because I don't like execing subprocess in Go, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up as a possibility as an alternative.
Could you just paste the link here?
Yeah, to which I'll send you the Chart Museum acceptance tests.
Okay.
And then there's a robot website. Oh yeah, Matt put it in there.
It's an Apache 2 project or under the Apache 2 license?
Let's see.
Yeah. So it's good license. It's plenty of followers. Yep. There it is.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, that would be, I mean, just a whole different approach to the tool in general, where we're basically writing the tests in pure English, and then you would implement it in Python. You might actually, because it's general purpose, I'm not exactly sure, but you might actually be able to use languages that aren't Python. But I haven't really, maybe not, maybe not, but yeah, I mean,
here's an interesting thing. It's popular enough that if you look at its makeup by clicking that little thing on GitHub, it tells you it's 47.1% Python and 45.2% robot framework.
Yeah, it has its own language type on GitHub actually. So.
Its own DSL or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
And basically, it uses like tabs, so you can be like, I don't know. Yeah, take a look at the Chart Museum example, but yeah, basically everything is implemented as a Python library, and you can get as advanced or simple as there's built-in keywords for running commands, but then if you want to do more advanced stuff like exec helm CLI, you'd have to write a little Python library for it. And you know, this is something that we could also release as Python modules, and I could import it in Chart Museum and also import it in chart testing. So I don't know, just a thought. And I can leave a comment just like summarizing this in the issue. And I didn't want to throw a wrench in it, but I was like up all night thinking about this this weekend.
Well, this is wonderful, because why reinvent the wheel? And also, if we're going to, if we're going to be evaluating what we should use, this is the perfect time to bring up alternatives so we can talk about it and look at them. Even if we don't use something, we can get inspiration from it, or maybe it gives us ideas on how to make things easier.
Right.
Perfect time to do that. Nicely done, Josh.
Yeah, and I think issues are always great for that, right? I mean, the issue is still open. I know.
Well, but I saw Reinhardt said we're going with Go, so I didn't want to like come in and be like, hey.
No problem. I mean, it's always good to look at new things.
And if there's something that does this in Go, I mean, we can do that. But I remember a while back trying to find something, and there's nothing that makes that HTML report that's all comprehensive. And
that's what I was going to ask. What is the biggest benefit for you? Is it the output primarily? I guess the natural language, almost like Behat style natural language initially for callbacks?
Yeah, I like that. I like that the tests results, like here, let me make this fail really quick. I can show you. Hold on. This is a different, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, basically, it's like the English test cases here. Instead of like seeing that bash output, right, you're just seeing like, will it crash if missing this environment variable, pass, fail. And that's all you get. And then if you want to dive in, you're provided, it basically spits out, this robot directory that has an HTML report and a pure log of what happened. And then if you open it, like you can do any level of nesting. So for example, this is the Chart Museum one. So I basically have a top level thing called Helm. So does Chart Museum work with Helm? I dive in here. Does Chart Museum work with Amazon? Does Chart Museum work with Google? And then you dive into this. And it just kind of has, and
nice
then
UI.
What's that?
It's a nice UI.
Yeah, it is really nice. And it's all just a pure single HTML file. It's like no like React or anything crazy.
But it sounds like, I mean, just to summarize a little bit, it sounds like some of the pros for you are that it has an existing abstraction or a normalizing layer for output. And it's got a human readable natural language interface too.
Sure, I think you're describing it better than I ever could. But yeah,
it looks cool.
And then anything that's like in standard out. Let me see. Like you can see it. Like you can dive into the time when it's actually run, right? And you can see what happened there. The downside would be, I'm not sure how easy it is, or even if you would want to get the actual standard out here. Or maybe if we decide to go down this road, you could pass a flag to chart testing that's like use robot, and you get this, and then you would have to use a volume to get this robot directory out of it. But it exits non-zero if any of these fail. So
one thing I think we should probably mention is just there was really quickly, just to kind of bridge the conversations, there was a few different chats about this since Reinhardt opened that issue. One, I realized later Reinhardt was not actually in, but we tried to talk about it as much as possible before then. But it came up several times, which was whether or not to use any of Kubernetes or Helm's underlying code base. This conversation came up specifically in the context of using Go. I recommended it because I was like, not recommended, but I brought up the topic because I thought, hey, that can speed things up. Matt brought up the issue. I'm just quickly summarizing this. Matt Farina brought up the issue. Hey, Helm core spends an awful lot of work trying to keep up with Kubernetes versions. Maybe that wouldn't be a good thing to duplicate. And then I realized, wow, you're totally right. So the the suggestion was no matter what tooling is used, to call the kubectl and Helm binaries as a kind of policy, or as a, not policy, but as a strategy, at least, for charts testing. That way we can actually swap in and out different versions and we won't have to change the underlying or the test code. But that was basically the only thing.
Yeah, and you can actually do pretty interesting things here. Let me see if...
Do you think that summarized it well, Matt? I was trying to be quick about it.
Yeah, and if we pull in things like the Helm packages, that's not going to be as big of a deal because Helm wraps a lot of that complexity for us, like anything in the Helm package folder. But at the same time, if we start pulling in things like Kubernetes Client Go, that, I mean, just pulling in Client Go adds like what, megs and tens of megs to whatever binaries you have. It starts to cause all kinds of bloat. It's this massive thing. It's massive. Yeah. It's like over a million lines of code.
Based on all that conversation, we just said, okay, as a strategy, there's almost no pros in the pros and cons list of doing that. Yeah. And we lose the ability to swap in versions, you know, and then we'd have to maintain all that ourselves. So anyway, thank you for...
Yeah, so I won't demand a answer right now. I'll put something summarizing what we just talked about in that issue, and we can go from there, but that is all.
Cool. Wow. Does anyone have any other topics? We have 9 minutes left. Okay. It sounds like we gain 9 minutes back to our days. Thanks a lot, Matt, for passing the baton, and thanks everyone.
Yeah, thanks Scott for running it. You can do this more often. I like it.
Sure. I'm happy to tag team whenever. Awesome. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.